So let's welcome Venerable Chandaratana for another episode of Clarity of Mind. Shalika is not here, and you should probably already guess that certain things are missing. But we have our Hamdru now, and Hamdrune, we invite you to conduct the session. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chandramahatya. So we are going to start the clarity of mind for mind through mindfulness session. First, we'll spend a few minutes establishing mindfulness, and I'll share the screen. So I invite all of you to sit in a comfortable position. Calm down yourself. Keep your head straight, neck also straight, shoulders relaxed, arms resting, upper half of the body straight, eyes gently closed. So once we close our eyes, we may be able to recognize that we have returned to ourselves. Typically, our minds are distracted, but now we are trying to focus, compose, and trying to be peaceful with the body. So I'm going to do a quick body scan, head straight, eyes gently closed. See whether you could recognize a slight sensation at your eyelids. Lips softly touching. There could be a soft sensation there as well. Keep your tongue at its root. And overall in your face, there can't be any tension. Since we are trying to be with the present moment, we can have a slight joy because after some time we got an opportunity to be with ourselves, to look after ourselves, and to spiritually grow. And this is a rare opportunity. So we appreciate it. And if you like, you can have a slight smile. Take a deep, long breath purposely. Hold it for a while. Slowly release. Head straight, neck straight, shoulders relaxed. So you are not purposely holding the shoulders. Arms resting. And there is no any tension in the arms muscles. And if you are keeping one arm on top of the other, then there could be a slight warmth, touch sensation. You can feel between your hands. And as we go further down, clothes are touching the body. See whether you can recognize some places where clothes are touching the body. At certain place, it could be just a rubbing sensation. At another place, it may be little tightness. All these subtle sensations we can be aware. We don't need to think. We don't need to imagine. We can directly feel. And as we are further connected with the body, we can recognize that this body is breathing. Heart vibrates. And the abdomen goes through a slight movement, rising and falling. So let's keep our attention on rising and falling. Let the body breathe naturally. Try to be aware of each rising, each falling in a gentle, relaxed, joyful way. Now we can go up, upper half of the body straight, heart vibrates, arms resting, clothes touching the body, shoulders relaxed, neck straight, head straight, lips softly touching, eyes gently closed. Now you can keep your attention at the nostril. Try to be aware of each in breath, each out breath. Here also let the body breathe naturally, and we recognize there's a air flow from inside to outside. So we are simply stationed at the nostril and we can recognize. So when from outside to inside air flow, we recognize it as the in-breath. From inside to outside air flow, we recognize it as the out-breath. Quite simple, quite ordinary, not a burden to the mind. So we simply station at the nostril, trying to be aware of each in-breath, each out-breath. So if you are successful in keeping your attention on the breath, you can carefully examine the whole cycle of breathing. The in-breath slightly begins, enters to the middle, and then fades away. Then there's a little gap, certain unknown area. And then the out-breath slightly begins, enters the middle, that too ends. Then another little gap. So as we are carefully examining Probably we can understand where in-breath touches, where out-breath touches, certain characteristics with respect to the in-breath, with respect to the out-breath, we can recognize. Okay, we are going to start the Dhamma sermon today, kind of a presentation. So we'll first pay homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So today's topic also I have taken from the Bhikkhu Bodhi's translated book, that is the In the Buddha's Words. And here he is going through various stages in our practice as well as certain social aspects. Actually, last time we discussed about the certain qualities that we need to maintain when we are dealing with a team, when we are dealing with group of people, certain way how we are maintaining certain cordiality among ourselves. And there's another topic somewhat similar, which is talking about the 7 principles of social stability. So this is actually based from the Mahaparinibbhana Sutta. Actually, Mahaparinibbhana Sutta, Buddha again and again explains certain characteristics, how to maintain the social welfare, how the stability of a society would be established. And in a way, he expected a very good society or a peaceful society. So that's why even before his final passing away, he keep on telling us, okay, these are the characteristics, these are the ways that you need to implement if you really want to prosper, if you really want to maintain a cohesive structure, a good well-being among the people. So he was keep on explaining those. So the 7 principles of social stability. So the conditions for prosperity and non-decline taught by the Buddha. So the non-decline, aparihaniya dhamma. So the idea is that so if we are able to implement these 7 principles, so then Buddha guarantees there won't be any decline. Instead, your society will be protected. Your country will be protected. And the whole thing has happened as an event during the Buddha's time, where, after the passing away of King Bimbisara, King Ajatasattu, we simply call as Ajasatta. So the King Ajatasattu, he became the king of the this Rajaga. Now, he had a minister called Vassakara. And anyway, now this King Ajatasattu is a kind of a warrior and he wants to invade various other kingdoms. Now, he wants to invade the Vajjins. So, Vajji kingdom is a really prosperous kingdom. And these Vajjis are actually following certain principles which taught by the Buddha. Actually, Buddha visited Vajjins and some of them really interested and they came forward and they asked various questions. And on one occasion, Buddha explained them, okay, if you want to maintain a cohesive society, a prosperous society, okay, you need to implement these seven principles. So that is taught by the Buddha, and Buddha seems inquiring that from Venerable Ananda. Actually, King Ajatasattu sent this Vassakara, the minister Vassakara, to check with the Buddha whether Buddha sort of appoint or whether Buddha agrees with this kind of a situation. Actually, Buddha describes these seven principles of non-decline, and he is basically uh, hinting that the Vajjins are difficult to attack. So he sent Minister Vastakara to consult the Buddha, and Buddha didn't actually go through any kind of military strategies or any of this. That's quite obvious. But instead, that he is asking from Venerable Ananda whether the Vajjins are following the seven principles. And then, while the audience is there, now Buddha is explaining these seven principles. So, the first principle, the frequent assemblies. So, regular and frequent meetings in a way. So, sometimes I can remember that sometimes when we are in an office environment, continuously sometimes we have to be in meetings and sometimes people complain about it. So many meetings and lots of times are spent on meetings. That could be a certain excess amount of meetings. But here Buddha points out certain necessary frequent meetings. So the idea is that when a certain group, a team, a country, whoever, a society is maintaining such regular meetings, actually then they can discuss whatever the issues, what are the situations and all that. They can actually discuss. So uh, therefore there won't be any big issues because again and again timely that we are attending to the slight issues and at that early stages we can address them and people stays informed. Problems are addressed early. So that's the point. So we are not allowing problems to escalate. Rather, at its early stage, we are able to recognize these issues, whatever problems, and take an action at their early stages because people are very much aware of what's going on and they can express their ideas and they can complain if there is something going on because we are frequently meeting and then we can take certain action. Public participation strengthens society. So there's certain participation happens from the public. People are coming and they are informing and they too are informed. The governing side is now sort of educating the people, informing the people, and people are also participating. So kind of a good relationship is there. So the community meetings, transparent governance, and active civic engagement. Now these are quite interesting areas how a country, how a society, how any other sort of a company, whatever, now all have to have this kind of frequent meetings. So then only we can really understand, okay, sorry, I got disconnected. Hope you can hear me, Chandan Mahathya.
Yes, Hamdruni, we can hear you.
Okay. So we were discussing the principles of sort of 7 principles of social stability, and we were discussing the first principle, that is the frequent assemblies. That when we are frequently assembling, so whoever the governing people, when they are frequently assembling, and then they can sort out whatever the issues at their early stages, and people are also get informed, and there's a kind of a transparency in the governance. And again, people also have a way to express whatever they are going through. That's a kind of a participation. So therefore, Buddha mentioned the frequent assemblies is one very important principle you need to maintain if you really want to progress as a society. And then the second one, harmony in action. Meet in harmony, act in harmony. They meet in harmony, break up in harmony, and carry on their business in harmony. Kind of a cordial relationship. So whenever they are discussing, okay, everybody have given a fair chance, kind of a respectful dialogue. And as a group, as a team, as a country, there's a kind of collective responsibility. And actually, when people get divided, so that basically weakens the community. And when a society is divided, when a country is divided, and they are quarreling each other, so that is actually more harmful than an external threat. Quite obvious. Now, say for example, whenever a country going through such a civil war, and there are various conflicting ideas and inside conflicts are there, another external force can come and invade the country, and they can do whatever they want. Quite obvious. Now, if we look at the Sri Lankans situation, now when English want to attack Sri Lanka and they want to invade the country, so they were able to somehow divide the country, and ultimately the king was betrayed, and certain others came forward. Ultimately, king was captured, and certain people, the locals, actually have given directions, information, because there's a division among the society. So whoever the rulers, whoever the governing parties, so they have certain divisions. Ultimately, the whole country being invaded. There may be many other examples in the society how certain country, when they are sort of internally going through certain conflicts and people are divided, it's quite easy for another external force to come and attack, come and invade, and completely derail the whole system. Now, but if one is in harmony, so everybody is in harmony, there are sort of equal opportunities are there, unity is there, a good dialogue is there, and everyone is taking the responsibility, then it's quite obvious. Actually, they are meeting in harmony, they act harmony, and also they disperse harmoniously. So this is another important aspect that Buddha highlights, which as the second reason, second principle, as a society, if you want to maintain certain stability. And then the third one, respect for law and tradition. Now, preserve established principles. Now, certain society, they may have certain old traditions, their own unique traditions, their unique customs. People like them, people respect them, and that acts like a kind of a backbone of the society. There are various beliefs. There are such various things when we consider certain society, but when a governing party does not respect that, so then people become really sort of upset, and they feel uncomfortable because their ethics and their norms and their customs are not being respected. But on the other hand, when there is a certain governing body which actually preserves these old traditions, they preserve these old customs, the people's beliefs are respected, then people feel more comfortable, they feel safe, and their traditional values are given certain recognition. So as a society, then they feel more comfortable. And whatever is established, whatever the rules and regulations established, so they don't abolish, rather they maintain it, they try to adhere to them. And if there is necessity, if there's a need to establish a new rule, then they get the consent, and then there may be possibility to establish a new rule. And, uh, කවුද මේ? චන්දන මහත්තයා, the others are to be muted. Otherwise, they sometimes switch on the, say, unmute the mics.
Yes, Sandra, I have done that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah. And then the wise traditions deserve protection, and change should be thoughtful and ethical. Now, in a way, the wise traditions, now, as here mentioned, now, say for in Sri Lanka, for taking as an example, now Sri Lanka had a lot of there are various traditional beliefs and traditional religions and customs as a society. So we have a lot of things. So when those are sort of protected, actually those are respected, so then these traditions actually was lasted for long time because of a reason why our ancestors have maintained these traditions, because they saw certain meaning under them, they saw certain benefit because of that. So likewise we can see all the countries, all they have their various such traditions, and those traditions need to be protected, respected. And not only that, when there is a certain law established, so that too has to be protected, abide by the law. So this is Buddha explained as the third principle, and kind of a constitutional order, institutional whatever rules and regulations. So when we are respecting them, then the institution will be protected and the society will be protected. So these things. Actually, now let me give a little example from the, say, forest monasteries. Now, when forest monasteries are established in Sri Lanka by Most Venerable Matara Sri Jnanarama Thero and the Kadavadvi Jinavansas Thero, so they also came up with a certain constitution. And we call it as the Yogashrama Katikavata, a constitution for these forest monasteries. And Jnanarama Thero, compiling it, has given certain direction, certain vision under this constitution. And the whoever the monks are supposed to adhere to this constitution. Because then we know, okay, what is the reason to establish the forest tradition in Sri Lanka? Actually, it happened in 1951 because, because of the invasions, the country lost our Buddhist culture, and even the Upasampada, the high ordination was lost. And certain monks have to go to Thailand to bring back the high ordination. Some have to go to Myanmar to bring the sort of high ordination. So likewise, with a lot of effort, actually, these all traditions, all religious practices are being protected. Now, Jnanarama Thero wants to further improve that, and he wants to establish a forest tradition so that monks are able to practice. Fair amount of importance is given to the patipada, to the practice. And these kind of information, regulations are very much explained in the constitution. And Nisarvana itself has its own another addition to the constitution. So likewise, whatever a monastery even have to have their own rules and regulations. Similarly, if another society, if another whatever a committee, a country, they too have these kinds of regulations and their own customs, their constitutions. whoever the civilians, whoever the participants, whoever the members are sort of requested to adhere to these principles, these regulations. So then only the society may sort of experience certain stability. Then only the whatever the body can explain experience the stability. It's quite obvious. But if there are certain people who are sort of not agreeing to them and they refute it and they want to sort of misbehave, then that would be a big issue. But on the other hand, if we are frequently meeting, then we can brought up these questions and we can address them. And if it is necessary, we can take an action. So likewise, we can understand how a law and order has to be maintained and the traditions are to be respected. So this is the third principle that Buddha is explaining. Honor the elders, the fourth principle. And there are certain old people or experienced people when consider a particular society. So they are the sort of the fathers, forefathers, and they actually give a certain role model to the country, to the society, to whatever the body, and we need to sort of respect them and we need to value the experience. So whenever there is an experienced person, we need to respect him. We can't ignore him. We need to consult him. And whoever has done that whatever task before, we can get some experience from him. We can get his consultation. And in a way that if we are doing that, then we can continue the wisdom. Now, if we consider the old systems, so they didn't have sort of a way to store information. They didn't have really books or internet or these modern equipments to store information. So how they transfer their knowledge is through the oral tradition. Now, just to give an idea, now the Buddhist tradition, now when Buddha passed away, all that teachings, what he has admonished, now monks are sort of remembering that. So various groups of monks are there. One group is remembering the Digha Nikaya, so the long discourses. Another group is remembering the Majjhima Nikaya, the middle discourses. Another group is remembering the Samyutta Nikaya, the combined discourses. And another group of monks are remembering the numerical discourses, the Anguttara Nikaya. So likewise, so different groups of monks are appointed to memorize all these teachings because there was no any kind of technological instruments to store information. So you can imagine how hard it was to memorize all these things and then from one generation to another generation transfer this knowledge. So this is how it has come after the Buddha passed away. So whole contribution coming from the Sangha, that how they sort of master that whatever piece of information they have, whatever the sections they are sort of appointed, and they are remembering it again and again. They are reciting it and trying to memorize it, not to drop even a word, not to drop even a letter. So you can see how meticulous they have to be in their memory. So what a kind of respect we need to have, what a kind of a gratitude we need to have to these all members of Sangha. So they were able to carry this information, carry this knowledge, the Buddha's teaching to each and every generation. So that's how ultimately later in Sri Lanka, during the king, I think Buenekabahu, so it was being put it to the script, put it to the palm script. Now, till that, everything was memorized. Everything was memorized. So, to these elders who are memorizing it, we have to really respect. So, they are the sort of holding bodies this of this old information, old wisdom. So, otherwise, if they are not there, if they are being ignored, or if they are information being lost, the whole tradition is lost. Whole wisdom is lost. So likewise, we can see We need to respect, we need to honor, we need to revere and salute the elders. Hmm. There are various things happening today. I don't know why. Hope you can see the screen again.
Yeah, we can see it, Hamdrone.
Okay. So as the fourth principle, Buddha emphasize the honor the elders and value the experience. Learn from those who came before, maintain continuity of wisdom, and a society which ignores the elders often repeats old mistakes. That is something that Buddha emphasized in this fourth principle. Honoring the elders, it doesn't mean that mere age, rather the knowledge. So when there is an old knowledge, old wisdom, so that has to be protected, and whoever protecting that are to be respected. And then the fifth one, protect women and families. So there are certain people who need certain protection, certain respect, and the coercion or abuse has to be avoided. No coercion, and we know that a society has to have certain ethical background. Certain norms are to be there. Certain ethical system are to be there, and human dignity has to be protected, respected, and women particularly, children particularly. So likewise, we know that certain groups are to be respected, and the protection have to be sort of assured, and any kind of violence have to be avoided. Any exploitation, any condemnation, any violence. Now, all these are to be avoided, and that's why in today's terms, a lot of people are talking about the human rights, social justice, all these things are there. Now, Buddha mentioned this in a different way, so to protect the women and families in simple terms. Okay, we need to protect the family, and in the family there are certain members who need certain attention and they need others' care, and we need to care them. Maybe the children, maybe the women. So likewise, so the weak are to be protected. And there are situations that people don't respect it, and then they abuse children and they abuse women, and all these things are happening. Then we can see that the structure, the ethical structure will be shattered. But if people are respecting that and mere proper uh, safe is sort of established, safety is established, then as a society, people all feel comfortable, they feel safe, and they feel protected, and they can live with harmony. You know that if we consider the animal realm, so they always live with fear because they don't know who is coming and attacking. So whenever they are going in search of food, so they are quite careful because they don't know where another predator come and attack. So likewise, they are constantly in fear. But in the human society, so such fear have to be avoided, abandoned. So people have to feel more comfortable. People have to feel safe. And whenever a woman, a child is going through a certain uh, area, so if they feel safer, if they feel more protected, so then that indicates this particular principle being enacted, this principle being respected. The sixth principle, respect sacred places, honor shrines and cultural heritage. They honor and support the Vajjin shrines at home and abroad. Preserve spiritual heritage, protect places of worship, maintain cultural identity. Now, all societies are having their own spiritual side as well. So, people, the humans, shouldn't be completely materialistic. Rather, they have to have certain moral as well as certain spiritual aspect as well. because mere satisfaction of the pleasures, or rather the sensual pleasures, sensual desires, does not mean that we are in a good society. So materialism doesn't only will give a very, say, temporary happiness. So people are sometimes talking high about it, but unfortunately they lose the spiritual aspects of humanity. So Buddha is a one, as a spiritual teacher, he was quite concerned about these spiritual aspects. So Vajjinsa therefore advise, okay, you got to honor whatever the spiritual traditions and those places where people are respecting and gathering and maintaining their beliefs, because people need such a internal safety, internal direction, spiritual beliefs as well. On the other hand, those will give another dimension to one's life rather than mere satisfaction or gratification of desires. So, a spiritual direction, spiritual aspect will give another dimension to one's life, because these materialistic uh, status can go up and down and they can go through various disasters, and a lot of vicissitudes of the life are happening. People have to bear that. They have to sort of endure that. So this endurance won't come immediately, but if they are giving sort of influence, certain reasoning, or certain kind of education from the spiritual side, how to bear these situations, how to bear these ups and downs of the life, vicissitudes of the life, and what is the direction of this humanity. So, what is the purpose of this life? How I can have deeper meaning from this life. So, likewise, these kinds of spiritual aspects give another dimension to one's life. So, that's why the spirituality is one area that we shouldn't neglect. So, Buddha here, as the sixth principle, is saying, okay, you need to respect these sacred places, and there are shrines and the areas that people are coming and venerating, respecting, all that. So, you need to preserve them. So these are the people's heritage, the country's heritage. You need to preserve them, you need to protect them. And protecting the places of worship, cultural identities, etc. So this is another principle that Buddha is highlighting in this Aparihaniya Dhamma, that if one is respecting this principle, their culture will be protected, their beliefs will be protected, their spirituality will be protected. People are fairly supported by spiritual side as well. So they feel more comfortable. And when certain disturbances are happening because of the vulnerabilities, because of the impermanence of these conditioned phenomena, they still have certain area to sort of look forward. And certain education is already available with them. Okay, they have certain understanding. So the understanding is coming from this old or spiritual teachings. So when they associate these spiritual teachings, and those are sort of acting like a buffer to absorb all these shocks. But if they don't have that, then they collapse. They get into a depression and they get into anxiety and all that. You can see that the certain materialistically developed countries, how much of mental failures are there in those countries, because people don't respect the spiritual sides and they ignore that. They are moving forward towards the abandoning of the religions, abandoning of spiritual teachings, and ultimately what happens is they can't bear the ups and downs of life. They get frustrated, they quarrel each other, and they get depressed, they become anxious and get into anxiety, and a lot of mental problems are there. But on the other hand, if a country is maintaining kind of a balance, yes, material development is also necessary, On the other hand, certain spiritual growth is also necessary. Then a society may be more successful. Then the seventh principle, the last one, support the noble ones. And here Buddha is talking about more onto the spiritual side. Support spiritual practitioners, create an environment for virtue, encourage wisdom and meditation. A society prospers when it nurtures moral and spiritual excellence. Previously discussed about the places of spirituality, and here more into the say accomplishment of that. Okay, people are there who are dedicated for that. People are there who are given more prominence to the spiritual development. So they are the the rule and the role models into this spiritual side. So they have selected that path and they are trying to live that path. And the society have to respect that, and society have to sort of support that, because these people are trying to get something different from this life. So people typically people are very much uh, adhere to the sense gratification, and they can't even sometimes think beyond that. So they are quite restricted or constrained by their whatever the sense desires. They can't think even beyond that. But on the other hand, another group of people are there. So they are trying to restrain their senses and to meditate and to develop wisdom. And they see a more broader picture about the life. They have their further development of their spiritual faculties, and they try to be free from this whole mass of suffering. So likewise, there are certain group of people who are very much into spirituality, more than the others. Now, these people are to be sort of respected, are to be sort of supported, because they don't really engage with the typical activities. They may not be participating in money making or earning. They are not going to typical jobs and these kinds of activities. So they need certain support from the society. So here Buddha is talking about the monks maybe, and whoever others who are more into spirituality. And so these people are to be sort of respected. Supporting spiritual practitioners, create an environment for virtue, encouraging that. Now, the thing is, Buddha is seeing a broader picture. Now, the problem is sometimes we can't see the broader picture. We think, okay, this is the only life, and this is our first birth, and we have to enjoy our senses as much as possible. We need to earn more money, and that money has to be spent, and we have to satisfy our senses. So that may be the quite narrow materialistic approach. But on the other hand, Buddha sees this as a mere instance. So this life is a mere instance. There are so many other previous lives we had. Again and again, we are going through birth and death. And therefore, Buddha see a big picture, and he see the value of this human birth. So if one is into spirituality more, and he or she wants to get the maximum benefit of this opportunity, so that person have to be sort of respected, that person have to be supported, and people are to be encouraged to look into that. Because the materiality does not bring lasting happiness. Sense desires or satisfaction of sense desires does not give a lasting happiness. So in a way, people are to be educated to look for a more deeper meaning in the life. So Buddha see this. That's why the interesting part, I mean, while he is safeguarding the society and expecting the prosperity within the society, he does not simply stop at the mere materialistic growth. He's taking us to a more sublime direction as well. He's taking us to a more sublime goal as well. So, materialistic development, yes, it is also important. But on the other hand, there is something more we can take from this life. There's more meaning to the life, deeper meaning to the life. And there are certain people who are into that deeper meaning, who are in search of that deeper meaning. And we need to encourage that, we need to respect that, we need to create an environment to develop that. So all that is there. Now, in today's terms, very much like encourage the meditation and encourage these spiritual practices, the real engagement of these practices, and targeting certain spiritual excellence. So give certain goal in people. Okay, you are capable of doing this. Don't merely restrict your skills only to the materialistic goals. You can extend your skills to the spiritual upliftment, spiritual growth. So likewise, we can see a more broader picture when Buddha is talking these aspects. So therefore, it is not that he's taking his teachings, his vision only to the materialistic side. Rather, he was concerned about the materialistic development, the social stability. Yes, he is concerned about it. At the same time, he is giving a more sublime direction, more profound direction into the spiritual side as well. And so after going through this discussion, the Vassakara is the minister who came to see the Buddha, and Buddha was discussing these 7 principles, and currently Vajjins are following it. The Vajjins are following these 7 principles. And therefore Vassakara decided, okay, Vajjins will never be conquered by force. And he got a cunning idea, okay, we need to act in a way to divide them. External enemies are less dangerous than internal division. Unity is a nation's greatest defense, in a way. So if we are united, if we follow these interesting principles, so the external forces can be abandoned, abolished. But unfortunately, if we are internally divided, internally we have a lot of troubles, internally we have a lot of conflicts, then quite helpless. And when Buddha is applying this to the Sangha, so Buddha explained the 7 conditions of welfare of the Sangha as well. So you need to frequently assemble and maintain the harmony, respect the Vinaya, respect the elders, and you need to target freedom from craving and love a kind of seclusion, and so these kind of secluded places, and target further on to the, say, accomplishment of the practice. You need to meditate and develop mindfulness, and start with that, and then don't just stop there. Develop the samadhi, the concentration, and develop the wisdom. So likewise, now Sangha is another society. The members of the Sangha are to be abide by the principles, certain Vinaya conduct, Vinaya rules, and then only the Sangha community will live harmoniously. So therefore, Buddha doesn't merely explain these things to the society, but he wants the members of the Sangha also to sort of abide by these principles. So we can see kind of a comparison. So communities decline when there is a division, but if they are united, then there's a progress. they divide or they decline when there's a disrespect about the ethical conduct, but when they are maintaining ethical conduct, they progress. And if they may decline when there is no law, people are not respecting the law. But on the other hand, if they are respecting the laws and they abide by the laws and regulations, rules and regulations, so then the society may prosper. And they may go through a certain downfall if they are more into the greed and abusing and all these areas. But if they, on the other hand, protecting the vulnerable, protecting the children, women, etc., then as a society they can prosper. And if they neglect the wisdom, the old traditions, and the spirituality, so that could be a downfall, that could be a reason for the downfall. But on the other hand, if they support the spiritual development, so people become more and more spiritual, they become more and more peaceful, and they have their deeper meaning to their lives. They won't commit suicide because of certain materialistic breakdowns, but they see a more deeper values in their lives. So therefore, we can see certain comparison between these two sides. And therefore, Buddha mentioned, so if as long as these principles remain in force, they may be expected to prosper and not to decline. So therefore, we can decide, okay, if we are building a family, if we are maintaining a kind of a family, if we are a member of a community, or if we are a member of a certain society, and better we ground on these sort of principles, and then we can see prosperity on many different directions and not the decline. So with that, actually, I like to conclude today's uh, clarity of mind through mindfulness session. And if you have any question related to your practice, or if you like to contribute, participate in any form of discussion, now I open the session for discussions.
If you have any questions, please raise the hand. Ashani, please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Thero Swamin Hansa.
Yes.
Swamin Hansa, I listened to Pansil Malu, and in that you said that we have to do mindful sitting at least 4.5 hours per day. But Obhanse didn't mention about mindful sitting, mindful walking. Swamin Hansa, could you please tell me how many hours of mindful walking is recommended for us to do at home minimum?
Yeah, actually, what I want to mention is that Jnanarama Thero has suggested the sitting meditation not to exceed or not to involve too long. So he particularly recommend maximum 1.5 hours if you are practicing mindfulness on breathing. So he basically suggesting, okay, maximum 1.5 hours per session, and such, I mean, 3 sessions may be enough. So that means ultimately you are covering 4.5 hours of sitting meditation, because it's a kind of a gradual practice. We can't sit too long, and we shouldn't sit too long. And the walking meditation actually will be covered next program. Walking meditation, in a way, it's all right to spend even more time because it's a more relaxed way of practice, and you are in an open environment and our eyes are open and you are walking. It's a kind of a dynamic process, and therefore even if you practice it for 5 hours, it won't harm. Even more than that, it won't harm. But on the other hand, there is a limit, because even through mindful walking there is a stage that mind get concentrated. So as we are progressing in the mindful walking, slowly, certain amount of concentration being built, And once that is there, so you can't walk further. So, for example, say you are a practitioner of mindful walking for a long time. Now you are able to practice seamlessly. And one day you experience, okay, during the mindful walking, your eyes are sort of gradually closing, like your eyes are gradually closing. And the environment become more darker and darker. And you can't actually walk because the body is swaying. Then we need to stop. So that means we have come to the end of the walking. So the walking is not possible at that moment. The mind needs to be concentrated, and mind prefers such a tranquil stage rather than the moving posture. A more stationed, more still posture is required than a moving posture. So that we need to understand in mindful walking. So till we achieve that, it's quite okay to walk maybe 5 hours. That doesn't mean 5 hours in one stretch. It may be in between there are many, many gaps. So likewise, the walking are to be distributed throughout the day. And then we can say, okay, there's a good balance. You are doing mindful sitting, mindful walking, and you engage with other activities as well. Those are also conducted mindfully. And then there's a good balance. Important thing is the mental balance. Because sometimes people ignore mindful walking and they simply involve with mindful sitting, then their practice is more biased towards concentration. So that needs to be avoided. So that's why we need to understand some sort of a balance in our practice. And many aspects have to be well balanced. Then we can see, okay, we are growing, not merely in the concentration, but mindfulness is also growing. That means the presence of mind is the presence of mind is there. And on the other hand, wisdom is also growing. Effort is also there. Concentration is also there. So many aspects are there. So the 5 faculties, Saddha, Viriya, Sati, Samadhi, Panya. So we always have to look into these 5 faculties and not just one faculty.
That is very valuable, Swami Hansa. I admit that. The final question I want to pose, Swami Hansa, is that after few months of investigation, I found out that when I do mindfulness meditation, more than any other meditation during daytime or at night, I find that I can't sleep much. That means at about 1, 2 like that, I wake up naturally.
I see.
But if I do metta meditation more than mindfulness meditation, I can sleep till 3:30, 4 like that. So I have found out that, and even then I don't feel uncomfortable during the daytime. But bit my eyes are a bit affected by that. That is only the difficulty I face. But could you please suggest that what should I do in order to get proper sleep and do meditation also properly?
Yeah, actually, this is a common situation because when we are developing mindfulness, the mind become more and more awakened. Rather than it get into a lethargic type of state, mind become more active, more prominent, more diligent. So that is one outcome of the mindfulness practice. But during the night, so rather than strenuously practicing mindfulness-based whatever type of meditation, you need to relax more and get to the kind of a level where you are more going to some relaxing kind of practice, not a strenuous kind of practice. If you like, say during the night, you can practice metta meditation, buddhanusati, so that you feel more comfortable and the mind is more into soothing type of experience. And because it is true that if we are practicing Vipassana techniques, for example, so mind has to be really active and we have to precisely position our attention and we need to investigate and more sort of say the mind is more active in that sense. But on the other hand, if you are simply practicing metta meditation, Buddhanusati meditation, so this will provide more tranquil experience, not much into not much into the wisdom and activation of the mind, rather more soothing and more relaxing kind of an experience. So probably you can practice metta and whatever this Buddha Anusati and these kind of meditations at night, so that it may paves the way for a peaceful sleep.
Thank you very much, Swaminathan sir. That was very
Yeah.
helpful. Much praise for you, Swaminathan. Theron Sanne Swaminathan.
Yeah, there are some nice.
Are there any other questions?
Okay, Chandaratana, I think there are no more questions. Then probably, yeah, we can wind up the session. Do you have any notices or anything?
No, Hamdrune Shalika said she's going to email regarding the next session. I don't think she has made any concrete plans, definite date, but she will be sending messages to all the participants, and she will discuss with you first.
Okay. So actually, she has sent a message asking me to check whether we can conduct the next session on 24th July. So we'll look into it, and the participants will be notified accordingly.
Thank you, Hamdrune.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, all of you may unmute now, and let's all thank Venerable Chandaratana Hamdru for another wonderful session. Thank you very much, Hamdrune. Bohum pen.
Yeah, there are some.
Bye.